Glad to be back on Full-Time Devils. Big game this weekend, looking to bounce back after that horrific display at the Emirates. Travelling now to a difficult place, Goodison Park, to play against Everton. How will Manchester United figure against the tough Scousers? Let's talk some tactics. So there are a few question marks, definitely amongst all Manchester United fans, about what went wrong at Arsenal. And I think we just... to be honest, Arsenal outplayed Manchester United and they exploited areas of weakness, which I did highlight. They're utilising Alexis Sanchez coming inside. And I just think a lot of it came down to how easy Arsenal were allowed to get the ball transitioned from their backline up to their star players. And I think that this comes down to I would say, a lack of focus from pressure from Wayne Rooney and his partner midfielders in that role. Because when you play as that holding number 10 role, there is a job to be done defensively, and I don't think that Wayne Rooney is able to do that as well as some other players might be able to do, but it really depends on whether or not you start Wayne Rooney. So in this starting lineup here, I have put Rooney in there. He has come back from a niggling injury, so for me, it wouldn't surprise me if Anders Herrera, coming back from injury as well, was to go in that role and fill in that number 10. From the retrospect that I'm going to take, talking about pressuring and how United can just frustrate Everton and not allow them that easy access, I would prefer Herrera in there because I think he might do a better job at this. But just for the moment, imagine Rooney will start. So at the back, I'm going with the same back four that played against Arsenal because I just don't know if Louis van Gaal will change things around. He could well put Blin at left back, bring Phil Jones into the centre-back position next to Smalling. In the middle of the park, this is what I would prefer to see. He might go with Carrick and Schweinsteiger. He has got that stubborn side to him where he wouldn't want to admit that those two can't play together. Many people have said they can't. Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin is who I would prefer, and I'll tell you why. And then, as I mentioned there, Depay, Mata and Martial up top. So, talking about the Arsenal game, and the first thing that I want to highlight that has to be changed tactically is far too often, just imagine Arsenal had possession in here, straight pass right into their attacking players that would cut behind Manchester United's defensive line and their holding midfielder line. So right in this area, Arsenal were allowed possession to be found basically so easily in that area, and it frustrated me watching it because what Wayne Rooney is supposed to do, if you are that midfielder, you have to force them one way or another. Simply put, if the possession's here, you force them into wide areas and you try and confine the space, maybe have your partner midfielders force everyone into an area where they don't want to be. So what happened with Arsenal is the likes of Coquelin would find the ball and it was a straight pass into Alexis's feet. There was far too many gaps. Now, it's not just Wayne Rooney's fault. He has to do a job of pressuring the opposing players and forcing them to go one direction or the other. But what happened is Manchester United's two midfielders were so flat. So Carrick and Schweinsteiger were caught in similar positions to this, and it was just an easy run for whether it was Ozil or Sanchez to just fill in this area or maybe come into this area and just pick up the ball right between Manchester United's backline and their holding midfielders. There needs to be some sort of, I would say, pressure, cover and balance. This is something that I've talked about many a times through tactics. So say, for instance, the ball's in this area. Wayne Rooney has to be the pressure, right? So he's the man that's forcing in one area. Then if it's someone like Carrick or Schweinsteiger, they have to be the cover. There has to just basically be right in behind Wayne Rooney, waiting to try and force that pass into the same area, but also looking to cover any midfielders in there. And then there's the balance. This is a standard three basically talking points for any midfield trio. I think when Chelsea were at their best last season, they did this so well. Haven't done it as much this season, but it's the pressure, the cover, and the balance. And the balance in there is supposed to be the holding midfielder who just basically protects the back line. Far too often with Schweinsteiger and Carrick is you'll find them both flat. You'll find a massive gap between them and Wayne Rooney, and it's just easy to ping passes in together and basically find themselves transitioning from defence into attack far too easy. That's what I felt with the Arsenal game. Now, what I imagine is when you play someone like Schneiderlin, he's not someone who just likes to sit back and allow possession to come to him. He's a hard-working midfielder, and he may be a little rash in his tackles. We've seen that definitely, but he pressures. So what Louis van Gaal has to do is have him on the same wavelength with Wayne Rooney. So although Schneiderlin's a little rash in his tackles, he doesn't just sit back and allow for possession just to pass through him. He likes to pressure. Sometimes, as we mentioned, he is a little rash with his tackles, but you want him to partner Wayne Rooney when he's pressuring. You don't want Gareth Barry, who for Everton will take possession in that holding midfielder role and try and find someone like Bartley. They can't get that straight pass because it's far too easy to transition. And Bartley's going to try and find possession in here and turn and find the likes of Lukaku. What I imagine should happen is have someone like Schweinsteiger sit a little bit deeper and have Schneiderlin pressure with Wayne Rooney so that everyone's in sync, so that if they're all forcing, okay, we're all forcing this way, we're all going to try and force Everton wide and then we'll pressure and we'll finally make that tackle. Don't be caught so open that Everton can just ping passes around, because Arsenal exploited Manchester United as if they weren't even there. And it all started from Rooney's pressuring, and it came back to their holding midfielders. They just weren't in sync together, and I think that they need to do a better job of doing that. I think that, in my personal opinion, as much as Wayne Rooney has got his qualities in that role, and I do think that it is still his position to lose, Herrera will do a better job at this. Herrera's got, I think, a better positional sense in that role. He'll be able to force them into areas where Everton will not want to play, and I think that he could do a better job. But Wayne Rooney, seeing as he is the captain, I just don't imagine Louis van Gaal dropping him. But that's just small changes, I think, that will help to prevent Everton from getting out from under pressure situations and allowing them to play easily. But from an attacking sense, I'm going to transition in how Manchester United can exploit Everton going forward. So going forward, people are talking about drastic changes that have to be made. One game against Arsenal where I think Manchester United, as I mentioned, were just outplayed, doesn't mean that everything has to change from an attacking sense. United were doing perfectly fine going forward before this game, and they will do perfectly fine, I think, against Everton. Now, at Goodison Park, what Everton like to do is suffocate the space, don't allow teams to basically move the ball around, and one of the reasons why I talked about that defensively is using the old American saying, the best form of offense is a great defense. I do agree with that. If United don't allow Everton to get out as easy when they have possession in their own half, it'll all kind of come in sync to how United will press going forward. But one thing that I do want to highlight is their fullback situation. So Seamus Coleman's coming back in at right back. I think he's a good fullback. He's one of my favourite fullbacks, I think, in the Premier League. But Galloway, on the other hand, as much as he's quick, athletic, he is good one-on-one situations, he is the ultimate ball watcher. Watch Liverpool's first, I would say, 5 or 6 attacks against Everton. Everything came down Liverpool's right-hand side, which is Galloway's side. He's a left-back. He is the ultimate ball watcher. I hope he's not watching this, because then he might just kind of adjust this part to his game, or Martinez is watching it, because it's so obvious. If Liverpool can exploit this, imagine what United can do. They have got this attacking fullback sense to his game, is Darmian. He can be an attacking fullback when he tries. So what I want to see from him in this game, I know after a 3-0 defeat, I don't think Darmian will be bombing forward. But what happens with Galloway is he just gets caught. If the possession's on this side, it's called that weak side attacking, which I talked about. Southampton did so well against United. Is Depay's going to find himself in a lot of possession. Coleman will cut across. Jagielka and Stones are pretty good in sync defenders together. But Galloway leaves this huge gap in here. He's often caught ball watching, and he doesn't watch these runners in behind. So when Juan Mata takes his run in behind, what I want to see is either a interchanging of movement, which I think would be better with Herrera, as I'm going to reiterate again. But if it's Wayne Rooney, make this loop and run in behind. Make Galloway be in two minds. Make him either force to commit into one area and track while Mata's running here, or flood the flanks and put Darmian down the right-hand side and allow for that weak side interchange, because Liverpool found a lot of success in this area. They were lucky not to get away with a victory, I think, against Everton, because Everton, especially in the first half, could have been 2 or 3-0 down if Liverpool had the conviction in that area. So it's a small, I would say, easy thing to point out. But if United do this and exploit it, then they will find huge success. Everton, I think, are a hard team to go to a place like Goodison Park and win. But if United do exploit that area, I do think that they will have a lot of luck down Everton's left-hand side, especially if you push Darmian a little bit forward. So that's why I put Darmian and Ashley Young in there. It could well be a case of putting Dele Blind at left-back, but I think after a 3-0 loss to Arsenal, United have a lot to prove. And I would play 2 attacking fullbacks and just go at them down that wide area, because I think that Everton, if they do concede early, like they could have done against Liverpool, this is United's game for the taking. My prediction is a 2-1 victory for Manchester United. It will be hard, but I'm going to stay on the positive side, as I am here on Full-Time Devils. I wouldn't want to say that it will be a draw, although it could be, or even a loss. You never know. I think I just predicted all 3 things there to cover my bases. Anyway, I think Manchester United could win this game 2-1 if they stick to what I said here defensively and try to exploit Galloway, the ultimate ball watcher. I know I'm going to say this right now and he'll probably come up with a goal, but that's what happens. Make sure to come over to TYT Sports, subscribe. Thanks again, guys, at Full-Time Devils.
Saturday, 3 p.m, Manchester United will be at Goodison Park to play Everton. Let's talk about that. Gaz, Dave and Howson. Start with you, Howson. What do you think will happen? What can we expect as fans from this game after the international break?